AI search has changed how people discover, evaluate, and select products. When buyers ask assistants like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, Perplexity, Grok, Copilot, or DeepSeek for recommendations, those answers shape awareness and shortlists long before a user ever types a query into a classic search engine. If your brand is recommended, you capture intent. If you are absent, you lose consideration. Most companies do not know which side they are on. This review explains how Trakkr brings visibility to that new battleground, what it measures, who it helps, what it costs, and how to use it effectively. Trakkr is an AI brand visibility tracker built for generative answer engines. The platform monitors how leading models talk about your brand, whether they recommend you over competitors, and which sources drive those recommendations. Founded by Mack Grenfell, Trakkr focuses solely on generative AI visibility, not on being an all-in-one marketing suite. That focus shows up in the product design. It centers on the prompts and outcomes that matter to revenue, like best for, alternatives to, versus, and top tools in a category. Here is the problem Trakkr solves. A prospective buyer asks an AI assistant a purchase intent question. The model responds with a shortlist and rationale. It may mention your product, rank a competitor higher, or omit you entirely. That answer is informed by content across the web and product documentation, as well as the model's training and retrieval methods. Without instrumentation, you cannot see the pattern of those recommendations or the evidence behind them. Trakkr instruments this layer. It runs standardized prompts across supported models on a regular cadence, collects the responses, parses mentions and recommendations, and records citations or linked sources when the model provides them. Coverage includes widely used systems, such as OpenAI ChatGPT, Anthropic Claude, Google Gemini, Perplexity, xAI Grok, Microsoft Copilot, and DeepSeek. Rather than treating every model as a black box, Trakkr normalizes outputs so you can compare how often you are recommended, how often competitors are recommended, and how that shifts over time. You can also identify the topics and attributes associated with your brand, such as ease of use, pricing, security, integrations, or performance. The core insights fall into a few buckets. First, recommendation rate, which shows how frequently a model not only mentions, but actively recommends your brand for a given prompt. Second, competitive benchmarking, which highlights who wins recommendations and by how much, broken down by prompt theme. Third, source influence, which lists the pages and publishers most commonly cited or reflected in the model's reasoning. Fourth, trend analysis, which shows changes in share of recommendations after you ship new content, run PR, or land key partnerships. Together, these insights tell you where to focus effort to change outcomes inside AI answers. Onboarding is straightforward. You define your brand entity, choose competitors, and select prompts that reflect real buying journeys. Examples include best project management tool for remote teams, top fintech fraud detection platforms, or alternatives to your category leader. Trakkr schedules runs across the supported models, captures outputs, then surfaces dashboards that segment by model, prompt cluster, and time frame. You can filter to see the exact language an assistant used, spot recurring justification patterns, and map those back to the sources that influence the answer. These results are actionable. If Perplexity and Copilot repeatedly cite a specific comparison article that excludes your product, prioritize outreach to the publisher with updated data and proof points. If Gemini favors vendors with comprehensive pricing pages and security attestations, improve those assets on your site and ensure they are crawlable and clearly structured. If Claude highlights integrations and you trail competitors, update your integrations page, ship missing documentation, and publish case studies that demonstrate the workflows buyers ask about. Trakkr equips you with the evidence to choose the highest leverage content, partnerships, and product documentation work. Who benefits most from Trakkr? Marketing leaders gain a single metric for AI-era discoverability. Product marketers see how positioning lands in model narratives. SEO teams learn which pages are actually driving AI answers, rather than just classic SERPs. PR and communications can target the publishers and analysts that influence model citations. Founders in early-stage companies can test whether they are entering shortlists at all, which is critical for category entry. Pricing follows a pragmatic structure tied to usage and coverage. Plans typically scale by the number of brands or competitors you track, the volume of prompts monitored, historical data retention, and model access. Teams with multiple product lines or markets may need higher tiers to cover additional prompts and competitors. Because model access costs and capabilities evolve, buyers should evaluate which models matter most to their audience and select a tier that covers those models and the prompt volume required for statistically meaningful trends. There are real constraints to understand. AI answers are probabilistic, so results vary by phrasing and across time. Hidden model updates can shift outputs week to week. Geographic and contextual factors can influence what is returned. Not every model discloses citations for every answer, which means attribution can be partial. Trakkr does not directly change model behavior. It reveals the levers you can pull. Coverage. On authoritative publishers, accurate product docs, and clearer pricing and security pages that models tend to rely on. How does Trakkr compare to other tools? Traditional SEO platforms like SEMrush and Ahrefs excel at keyword research, backlink analysis, and SERP tracking. They do not tell you if ChatGPT recommends your brand. Social listening platforms like Brandwatch and Meltwater monitor mentions across social and news, which is valuable for reputation, but they do not evaluate assistant recommendations at the point of query. Competitive intelligence tools like Crayon capture feature claims and pricing changes. Trakkr complements all of these by measuring the specific moment when a buyer asks an AI assistant for a shortlist. To get the most value, align your Trakkr workflow with a repeatable playbook. First, lock in a set of buyer intent prompts that map to your funnel. Second, review recommendation shares by model and isolate the biggest gaps. Third, open the cited sources to see what evidence models lean on. Fourth, execute targeted fixes. Earn inclusion on the highest influence comparison pages. Publish clearer product overviews that answer who is it for, why it is different, and how it works. Add structured, crawlable pricing, security, and integration details. Fifth, annotate changes inside Trakkr and watch for trend movement after publication and outreach. Finally, rinse and repeat as models and categories evolve. A few practical tips increase impact. Write comparison content that is honest and updated, since assistants penalize thin or biased pages. Make documentation deep and interlinked, because models often extract details from docs rather than blog posts. Ensure your site performance and metadata are clean, since crawlability and clarity affect what assistants retrieve. Build relationships with mutual reviewers and analysts who publish category roundups. When you launch a new feature, include exact phrasing that assistants are likely to pick up. For example, supports SOC2 Type 2, native Slack integration, or unlimited seats on the starter plan, with proof. The bottom line: AI assistants are now a primary path to product discovery. If you are not monitoring how they represent and recommend your brand, you are operating blind. Trakkr gives you line of sight into those model answers, the competitive landscape inside AI, and the content and partnerships that shape outcomes. Its focus, founded by Mack Grenfell, is an advantage because it channels development into the analytics that matter most for AI-era visibility. If you lead marketing, product marketing, SEO, or comms, and your buyers consult AI assistants before they talk to sales, Trakkr will likely pay back quickly by guiding what to fix and where to win. If your motion is purely outbound or you sell in a niche that AI assistants rarely cover, the value may be lower, though you can still use Trakkr to validate category presence. For most modern software and B2B categories, however, measuring and improving AI recommendation share has become a core growth lever. Evaluate which models matter to your audience. Choose a plan that covers those models and the prompts you care about, then run a rigorous test. Use the findings to prioritize a focused set of content updates and publisher outreach. Measure again. Over a few cycles, you will see whether your brand is rising inside AI answers. That is the signal Trakkr is built to deliver.